Hello, I'm Delusion Dispeller, and I'm back to talk to you more about the rapprochement phase of childhood. As I said, rapprochement happens between 18 months and 3 years. It is when the child decides, this is mine, mine, mine. And when they become angry if things don't happen the way they want them to happen. During this stage, the child is starting to connect with other children, but also able to be a separate individual at the same time. They learn to say no boldly and without being afraid of something bad happening to them. Now, if you think about it, you can see where if something bad does happen to them, how that teaches the child that they always must agree with whomever the caregiver is. They can also hear no without being afraid and hiding when somebody tells them no. A child that is insecure will be very frightened if somebody tells them they can't do something or they can't have something. And you'll see this in children where if you tell them, I'm sorry, we can't do that right now, and they stand there and just have a major meltdown. I'm not talking about a childhood temper tantrum. I'm talking about end of the world, just totally losing it. These children may not have had a healthy rapprochement period in their lives. When children explore, they need to not be ignored or shunned or treated wrongly, but to receive consequences for their attempts at, or not to receive consequences for their attempts at exploring, negative consequences. What I mean by this is when the baby ventures off without mom, that child should not be scolded or punished or threatened or belittled in any way, shape, or form, because it causes insecurity, it causes fear in the child, and it causes that child to want to go along with what anybody else says and not establish their own choices. So when that child starts exploring, a lot of times an insecure parent or a narcissistic parent will be upset and they will ignore the child. Like, look, mommy, look what I did. And they just will not acknowledge them. They'll ignore them. Or they come home from school and got a great grade on their paper. It was never good enough. Those kind of things. They need to have self-esteem and self-worth and encouragement from that parent, or they will grow up feeling like nothing's ever good enough, or feeling like they have to always be looking over their shoulder, or a hand's going to come down on them and whack them one if they make a decision that isn't the parent's decision or the caregiver's decision. Let me explain how some people learn to shut off the sensitive part of themselves. Okay, so the child decides to be different than the caregiver, and the caregiver decides to withdraw affection from that child to punish them for not doing things their way or the way that they think they should be done. The child has a choice. That child can either be compliant and go along with what the caregiver is saying and say, let's give an example. The caregiver says, I like onions. The child really doesn't like onions. The caregiver says something like, oh, you know you like onions. You know how good they are for you. Well, the child is still sitting there thinking, no, I really don't like onions. Now, the child has learned in the past that if they don't eat the onion, even though they don't like it, they will get smacked or they'll get ignored and shunned the rest of the day. So that child can either comply and eat the onion, which they hate, or because they want to keep that caregiver happy, that parent happy, or they can rebel and risk losing the attention, the affection, and possibly the relationship with that caregiver. Now, if this happens over and over again over a period of time and incidences, that child learns I either can go along with it and be miserable because I really don't like what's happening and I really don't want to go along with it, or I can say, no, I'm going to do my own thing, and then mom won't talk to me for the rest of the day, or dad, won't let me use the car, or caregiver over here will turn my friends against me or tell me I can't go out and play. There'll be some type of punishment if I decide to make a choice that's different than theirs. Stay tuned. I'll be right back with some more.